Any discussion of liberation pedagogy must begin with Paulo Freire's banking model of education. In Chapter 2 of Freire's visionary Pedagogy of the Oppressed, he introduces the metaphor of the banking model for education. Freire speaks of the teacher as the narrating subject, and students as patiently listening objects. In this model, the students are passive recipients of knowledge shared with them through the teacher. The teacher's job is to fill the students with knowledge, often knowledge that has little to do with the student's experiences or needs. The world, Freire writes, becomes motionless, static, compartmentalized, and predictable. The classroom looks much like this. The teacher tells the student, 4 times 4 is 16. The student replies, 4 times 4 is 16. The student does not understand why 4 times 4 is 16, but that is not the goal of such an education. The students learn to mechanically memorize what is shared with them. The student becomes receptacles. The teacher becomes depositor. Students receive the facts deposited by the teacher. The scope of the student's job is merely to receive the facts. That is all. Compliance, meekness, and discipline are the hallmarks of these classrooms. The teacher confuses his subject area authority with a sense of superiority over the students. The teacher becomes the oppressor. Freire argues that this approach masks its real purpose, to dehumanize the students through its use of person-to-person interaction. The educated person fits the world as it is and does not question it. In short, the person is perfectly educated to accept the role society has made for him or her. A peasant learns the skills needed to survive a peasant's life and not to imagine something different. Freire notes that liberating the oppressed from such a model will serve also to liberate the oppressor, for the teacher in the banking model of education has robbed himself of the ability to live in solidarity with others. Through his oppression, the oppressor has robbed himself of his own humanity. The banking model of education is death-loving and not life-giving for both the student and the teacher. Instead, Freire offers a different vision of education, one in which teacher and student are equal and share in dialogue. Liberation pedagogy, Freire argues, is a praxis, action and reflection of men and women upon their world in order to transform it. Problems are posed, experiences are shared. In liberation pedagogy, new roles are found in the classroom. Teacher-student and student-teachers work together and dialogue together to share their understanding and pose problems. Through such dialogue, freedom is won for both the oppressed and the oppressor. Freire, who was born in Brazil in 1921, published Pedagogy of the Oppressed in 1968. Freire worked in secondary and college settings in Brazil before he was exiled to Bolivia and later moved to Chile. In both Brazil and Chile, Freire came to understand the injustices acted upon the agricultural workers, and he was jailed and exiled because of his work organizing these people. He developed his pedagogy while working to organize these men and women, and he is largely considered the forerunner of critical pedagogy. There is no doubt that Freire's vision of man's desire to not be merely anthropological. Man does desire food to live, for instance, but also ontological. Man desires to be and wants to live a life as he creates it. This belief is rooted in Karl Marx, who saw the struggle for money as dehumanizing for those who lack it. Power and money are inextricably linked in Marx's vision. Freire's metaphor suggests that education is rooted in the same economic injustice. Freire's vision was no doubt rooted in his experiences in South America, but the idea of liberating through dialogue has been adopted worldwide. In the final decades of apartheid in South Africa, for instance, the Teachers League of South Africa infused academic instruction with a critical questioning of the political, religious, and economic policies in hopes of sharing a vision of equality that was very dangerous to the established order and is credited with helping to inspire the strikes and protests that eventually ended the inhumane practice of apartheid. In the United States, critical pedagogy has questioned issues of class, race, and gender. Voices such as Bell Hooks, largely known for her writings on race and gender, have traced their vision to Freire. In Teaching to Transgress, Hooks says that she sees educating as right as a subject in resistance to define reality. Gloria Lansing Billings has incorporated Freire's ideas into her work for culturally relevant pedagogy that recognizes the need for classroom practices that affirm the life experiences of students, especially minority students. Her work, Dream Keepers, Lansing Billings notes, is not a work of despair, but about keeping the dream alive. The importance of schools in securing a truly democratic society was central to the 1968 school walkouts in LA, in which thousands of students essentially struck in protest of unfair treatment and culturally insensitive curriculum for Chicano students. Today, critical pedagogy inspires educators to rethink notions of gender as they are taught in schools. Queer curriculum theory has emerged as a means to question heteronormativity in the classroom and make space for the voices of those oppressed because their gender identity does not meet social expectations. Paulo Freire laid the groundwork for a vision of education that seeks to allow students to question the life they live and in that questioning find new opportunities for themselves. In such a model, teachers work side by side with the students, one voice among many. In his work, Freire equates being revolutionary with being dialogical because problem posing does not and cannot serve the needs of the oppressor.